and welcome to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority. This is your refreshing rendezvous with all things that matter in the greater New Haven region. And today we have a very special show. First of all, my name is Kevin Watsey. I'm the Director of Public Affairs at the Regional Water Authority. And we have a special show because, as I've said on past shows, I recently moved to the New Haven area. Actually, it was about a year ago this month. And when I moved here, I started seeing all these signs for the Arts and Ideas Festival. And then as I started working at the RWA, I learned more about the Arts and Ideas Festival. Got a chance to meet with some folks. And when I conceptualized this radio show, one of the first things I thought is, I got to have somebody on from the International Festival of Arts and Ideas because I want to hear all about it. So what did I do? I reached out to the festival. And I asked them if we could have a guest, and so here we are today. The festival actually kicks off this week, which is good timing on our part. It kicks off on June 14th, and we are joined today by the executive director of the Arts and Ideas Festival, and we will be joined in a little bit by, who is it again?
Missy Huber, the managing director.
Missy Huber, the managing director of the festival. But right now we are joined by Shelley Kiela, who is the executive director. And Shelley, I always like to start my shows by asking our guests to tell us their story. I kind of call it the origin story of your life. So welcome to the show, and tell us your story. How did you end up becoming the executive director?
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks for having me here today. It is a thrill to be talking about the festival, which is International Festival of Arts and Ideas, is the reason I'm in New Haven. So as you encountered it, it's what brought me here. I'm originally from the Midwest, actually. I'm from the Milwaukee metro area. I have roots in the arts on both sides of my family. My father's father was a vaudeville performer. My mother was a professionally trained bassoonist. They both went into business. My mother got her accounting license or accounting degree. My dad ended up in building. And so I have this really strong thread of arts and business that runs through my family tree. So I grew up around it, right? Like, it was in my living room. We went to shows. I started performing when I was 10 and did community theater. And then I did some singing and dancing groups around Wisconsin. I eventually moved to Minnesota, so stayed in the Midwest. But I studied a lot at the University of Minnesota that connected me with the cultural expressions of different forms of the arts. So I was interested in social change, social justice, artistic expression, theater, dance, music, and stayed in Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is an area that's rich with arts support and arts programming. And I worked there for 17 years after I graduated at a performing arts center called the Ordway, where I got the chance to produce and present theater, festivals, music, dance, student performances, so many of the things that happen in the festival here. And so when it was time for me to look for my next opportunity, when I encountered what the festival had been, what Arts and Ideas had been, I thought, well, this is a place where I can really apply what I've learned and bring something of value and also learn something myself. So I came here almost 4 years ago now and moved my whole family, and we have been having a great time.
Like you said, we have something in common. I moved my whole family here just not even a full year ago. Okay, you said a couple of things that totally piqued my interest. So your father was in vaudeville?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather.
Yeah.
Like Catskills vaudeville, or was there like a
Milwaukee.
vaudeville scene?
There was a vaudeville scene in the Milwaukee metro area.
Okay.
In the city of Milwaukee, he was the vaudeville performer. His stage name was Bob Ennis.
Bob Ennis. I'm going to have to look that up because I'm a big fan of like the Catskills vaudeville and hearing some of the stories of the Marx Brothers out there, and Jack Benny and all those old-time comics that got their starts in vaudeville. That is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel, and my dad's side is super German, like the very strong German Milwaukee roots. So when that side of the family gets together, it's just very loud and boisterous and lots of gesturing.
That's great. And then, so you said when you were in Minneapolis, you kind of ran an arts type program, and so we were talking before the mics went on. When I was in college, I worked at an amphitheater running backstage security. So I think between us, we've seen an awful lot of shows.
Oh my gosh, yes.
What can you pick out one show that you were involved with that just you still talk about all these years later? Like, what was your favorite show?
Oh, well, my favorite show and the one I talk about might not be the same one. But I will say, I got to see Alice Cooper on stage. That was really interesting. Like probably 6 years ago. and he really put on a show. I mean, and had a great crowd, and it was filled up to the whole theater was filled, and we had young people and old people. It was great. I loved Boys to Men. We presented Boys to Men. You know, that was a song or a group that I grew up with in high school. And so I think that, you know, as I age, those bands that speak to my experience as a high schooler or, you know, as a teenager are the ones that bring back the most poignant memories. So I think those have been the ones that stick with me the most. And then, you know, artists who broadened what I thought was possible. Like we had a group that did Mongolian throat singing as a rock and roll band.
Oh, wow.
At the Ordway when I worked there. And I mean, that was something I never knew even existed. And so that is quite memorable because it was new, you know,
And
because it
different,
stretched
yeah.
me. How about you? Where did you work?
I'll tell
Which
you, so
amphitheater?
I worked at the PNC Arts Center in
Yeah.
Central Jersey, right in Monmouth County. But I will say, I have never talked to a person who has seen Alice Cooper who hasn't said what you said. They all say they didn't even like him, but after the show, they were just huge fans because it's a show.
It's a
'Cause he
show.
puts on a show. As far as my I mean, I had so many favorites, but I will say the most fun I had was working Poison concerts.
Oh, yes.
I grew up
Why?
with Poison.
Okay, yes, the memories.
But they were just four of the coolest, nicest guys to hang out with.
Yeah.
They were not pretentious, even though they were big, you know, rock stars. They just were normal guys who had a lot of fun. And their concerts were just a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, the confetti, and it was a lot of fun. But I worked a lot of, you know, I worked at Bad Company. I was a huge Bad Company fan, and that was one of the top shows I ever saw.
Yeah.
His voice was just pristine. But we are not here to talk about concerts. Maybe Liquid Lunch in the future will just be the Shelley and Kevin show telling concert
I
stories.
love that. We have a lot of them. Yes.
I have 3 years and 400 concerts worth of stories to tell. But we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the International Festival of Arts and Ideas, which, as I said, kicks off in a couple of days here on June 14th. So now that we've heard Shelley's origin story, we've heard a little bit of my origin story.
Yes.
I would love to hear the origin story of the actual festival. So,
Yes.
I guess, how old is it? How did it start? And to the extent I know you've only been there 4 years, how has it evolved? And we can talk to Missy when she gets there about the
Absolutely, yeah.
evolution of it.
Missy will be able to add a lot of color. But I can say that, you know, we're in our 29th year. This will be the 29th annual festival. So it has happened every single year for 29 years, which is quite remarkable for a festival. I ran a festival, the organization I worked with ran a festival in St. Paul, and festivals by and large are not able to make it that long without taking a break or having to shut down and kind of reimagine themselves. So that's quite unique and special. It began in the mid-'90s really to do a few different things and inspired by a few different things. One was to take advantage of this time in this highly creative city, which New Haven is, when a lot of the university kind of students and some of the faculty are gone. And that is a lot of the life in terms of the population during much of the year, right? Yale is one aspect of that, and there are a lot of colleges and universities. Albertus Magnus is here, Gateway's here, SCSU's here, Quinnipiac. And so the idea was, okay, here's this moment right when the universities close in June. The weather's pretty good. It's not too hot yet. The women who started it, 3 women started it, researched when the weather would be the most advantageous, like wouldn't rain, wouldn't be too hot. They picked this kind of mid to end time in June, and also wanted to create something that would bring people together from the very diverse communities in New Haven. And so the intention was to put it right in the middle of the New Haven Green, because that became kind of a central artery to the city as a whole, and to take advantage of the strong intellectual and creative capital that exists here through both a humanities component and a performing arts component. So that was the why. And I'll add too that really helping not only to celebrate what was here, but also to push economic development, to spur economic development at a time when the city is a little more quiet. That's why it started. How has it? So we're talking about the festival history, Missy. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. So Missy Huber has just joined us. I don't know if she's actually on camera yet or on mic, but as soon as I get the heads up that she is, we will bring her into the conversation.
Awesome. So I'll add that, as the festival has evolved, the stories I've heard are that, the Ideas program has taken various shapes and forms. There have been, and the ideas are mostly lectures or talks. The signature artistic moments have been, and Missy will have great stories about this, very wild and odd, including like a show that took you with your cell phone. It was called Cell. I think it was called Cell. And you needed your cell phone to go from place to place by yourself around the city. So, the idea of the festival was to be complementary to the art that exists here already, not to be duplicative of it, which means you get to do really weird, goofy things that stretches people's imagination. Big puppets, circus, shows like Cell, things from all over the world and things from right here. And then over the most recent years, what's grown, I think most quickly is the community engagement and education programming. So we do we've done 5 neighborhood festivals the last few years in distinct neighborhoods of New Haven, kind of co-creating those with neighborhood leadership. We have a fellowship program for high school students. We have a big read program for, to engage literacy and the artistry of the book. And these are all newer additions. It started as this vision of a 2.5-week thing that happened in June, and now it's really a year-round organization that is that culminates with this big festival in June. So we've been doing things for a while now.
That's crazy.
This year.
So Missy Huber, the managing director of the festival, has joined us, and so we'll take a quick step back, Missy, because we just talked to Shelley. I like to get my guests' origin story. So how did you get to become what you are now? It's I call it Tell Us Your Story. So welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about your story.
Thanks for having me. So yeah, I was not a theater performance kid when I was in high school. I was more on the athlete, and I grew up in Southern California, so the beach lifestyle kind of thing, but got involved in theater in college, and ultimately started at the festival in 2003 as the company manager, and through both luck and perseverance have been able to advance in the festival. And so now here I am, managing director of artistic planning and operations, and have just really fallen in love with the concept of a presenting organization and getting to work with all of the different art forms.
That's fantastic. And so as I understand it, each year is like a theme, right? There's a theme to the festival. Can you talk a little bit how that theme is developed, and then how'd you land upon this year's theme? Like, does it take you a year to kind of, the festival ends and you start talking about next year's theme, or
people are already asking us about
next year's theme, and you're like, let us just get through
June. I can speak to, since I've gotten here, and themes in general in the performing arts. It's typically a conversation, a dialogue, right, between the art that you're excited about that's kind of bubbling up, some signature pieces, the conversations that are happening in society, and then how that presents itself to the community in which you exist. So in 2000, as an example, the theme was Imagine. And it was Imagine because, COVID, we were in the midst of COVID. We were shut down. Your mind was the place where the creative activity could happen. We were trying to think about a world that was different than the world that we'd been in, because nothing was familiar. And we also were excited about art forms that would provide some escapism and get people thinking creatively about making a different kind of future. So that's the kind of the way that it comes together. I think the best themes happen not only in dialogue, like that internal dialogue I just had outwardly, but also talking to community members, talking to artists, talking to staff and board, and kind of bouncing things off. So a lot of it's listening too, right? It's listening to what is mattering to people and where you feel the energy. This year, we actually tried to resist a theme, but one just sprang up kind of anyway. We were using the tagline "Move with Us," and the reason for that is this really intentional focus on migration. Migration being such a strong topic in the sociopolitical sphere as related to climate, as related to some of the artwork or the performances that we're presenting that have to do with sugarcane farming and how that brought people, that's Contratiempos piece, brought people from West Africa through the Caribbean and even into the Northeast where there's a huge Caribbean population, which is a lot of our international spirit, right? So this idea of move and how thinking about yourself in the story of movement creates agency for you, and how, you know, forces come and try to and push on you and shape you and you push back, and that feels like a very performing arts centric topic, because that's what the arts are. They're about creating something, making something, moving with the times. So that's how this year came together. How did it happen before I got here, Missy?
Actually, very, very similar. That same sort of dialogue. Sometimes it was a constellation of programs that we were interested in, and we started to recognize commonalities there. And then then you might hear conversations happening with community partners in the grocery store, on the news, that you're sort of like, wow, all of these things are sort of saying this is the kismet of right now that says that that's what we should be talking about.
Do you have folks pitch you ideas all the time? You should do it on this. You should do it on that. Do you get a lot of that, or?
We have folks pitch us a lot on performances.
On performances, yeah.
Yep. On shows and concerts and artists that they want to see. I haven't had a lot of pitching on theme. I mean, mostly people are like eager to hear what's it going to be. And I think part of that comes from, again, New Haven being such a creative space and a maker space. And people want to hear, what's this big idea that I can fit into, right?
And it's always so exciting to see some of our partners. For example, we work with Elm City Cycling, and every year they hear that theme and they take it to heart, and then they create tours that have some resonance with that theme. So we're still around New Haven, around Connecticut, but taking that lens.
Yeah, I was just looking at the cycling thing because I'm a cyclist, so I like.
Well, we've got some programming for you, Kevin.
Yeah, I was just I was just looking at that, so that's pretty cool. So, how many events do you have scheduled this year?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Yeah. I want to say it's probably in the neighborhood of 200 performances that may be some iterations of the same piece. So a couple pieces that are performing 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. So we say 150 plus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So it's 20 plus a day over your 2 week.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's impressive. That takes a lot of coordination. So how many folks are on the staff at the how big is the team that's putting this together?
Yeah, we go from a staff that's about 15 year round to 160. So kind of as of tomorrow, there'll be about 160 people.
And mostly volunteers or paid?
That's in addition to our volunteers.
Oh, wow.
This is a paid staff. Correct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was up at the Capitol earlier this year and was testifying about the festival, and I said, you know, this is not just an opportunity for people to come together and experience great art. It's a jobs program. It's a training program. There are plenty of people that have gone on to careers in New Haven, in Connecticut, outside of the state, that got their start at the festival. We have a lighting designer, I think, who is now working with WWE around the world. He graduated from Hamden High and started with us 4 or 5 years ago. Yep. And he's off lighting stages. I think he was in Saudi Arabia earlier this year.
Yeah.
So it's a real service to the state and to the community to be able to give this gift, not just as entertainment, but also as job training.
Yeah, and that's, as we talked about my experience, the thing you realize is there's all these background players that you would miss them if they were gone, but when they do their job right, you have no idea they exist. The lighting directors, the sound engineers, all those folks, the key grips, all the arts world wouldn't exist without all those behind the scenes players. It's not just the person on stage playing the guitar and singing. It's all of those folks coming together to make a good performance. So I was looking through the program, and I did notice one, not necessarily a theme, but my favorite topic, water, got a lot of has a lot of focus this year.
A lot of love.
Yeah, and because this is Liquid Lunch, and I'm a water nerd, I want to talk a little bit about water and some of the focus and why water. I wonder if it has to do with the movement, right? Water moves.
Yes, yes.
But can you talk a little bit about water as like a focus this year?
So I'll start, Missy, and then I'll bop it over to you. We are keenly aware of the fact that the environment is an ongoing topic for us, especially when we're talking about ideas or humanities. We can't escape and shouldn't escape talking about environment. And being a coastal city, water just feels like a really key part of that conversation. It's a major part of migration as well. As you talked about movement, and it's a reason why people move. It's been a reason why people move throughout human history. And it's also something that is a way for folks to have fun and play, and it has to deal with commerce. And so it's intersectional in so many ways. We always have some fun water tours. That's really a mainstay. I would say this is maybe the first year since I've been here that we're focusing this intensely on water in the environmental summit, the IDEA Summit. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a fabulous keynote. Her name's Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. And she started a think tank in New York called the Urban Ocean Lab. So she herself is focused on water. And she just got a feature in the New York Times. One of the things that's exciting about her is she is, instead of talking about putting forth, a warning or gloom and doom, like, be careful, this earth is gonna be destroyed. She's talking about, what could it look like if we get it right? And let's flip this on its head a little bit and speak from a place of hope and action. And so that's really inspiring. And that's the first weekend. That's happening on Saturday of the festival. There's also a fabulous musical piece that talks about water that Missy knows a little more about than I do.
Yeah. So in this show, it's Malhar, a Requiem for Water by the composer Rina Ismail, who is California-based. And so with the droughts sort of being very front of mind for a lot of Californians, she wanted to write a piece that sort of recognized the situation that we find ourselves in, and so has so interestingly woven together traditional Hindustani singing with the Latin Requiem, and so it's maybe a little bit more sad than what Shelley was
you gotta have
talking
balance,
about.
right?
Yeah, yes, but it will be a beautiful piece of music, and we're so lucky to get to collaborate with the Yale Choral Artists, which is sort of a professional group of singers that went through the Yale's program, both undergrad and graduate music programs.
Yeah, it's so interesting with water. Obviously, I talk a lot about water, and I go talk to a lot of community groups about water, and I always tell the person who invites me, you got to set aside enough time for me, because people think water's boring, and I'm just going to go spend 10 minutes telling them where their water comes from. But I always say, I'm going to get 45 minutes of questions. So you've got to set aside a good 45 minutes of Q&A. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm right about that. Because once you start the conversation, once I just start telling people your water comes from Lake Whitney and the treatment plant is across the street, all these questions start coming up. And before you know it, an hour's gone by where I'm answering questions. And it's people that don't get it underestimate the curiosity about water, specifically about where your drinking water comes from. But then that'll lead to, questions about Long Island Sound and questions about, can we treat ocean water and take the salt out? And I love, it's one of the reasons I love doing what I do, is because it's just, there's so many avenues. People start talking about sewer and, reuse and all that stuff. And I always tell them, give me enough time, because you'll be disappointed. And the few times they haven't, I just look at them, I told you, because the hands are still up as they're pulling me off stage. So I'm thrilled that there's a bit of a water focus. And I will say, one of the things is a tour of the Whitney Water Treatment Plant on Whitney Ave that is not open to the general public. So if you want to see the inside of that very cool building, and you want to see how we take water out of Lake Whitney, and within an hour it's out into the system for you to drink. It's a great tour, and it's a very cool building. I've been doing water now for almost 20 years, and it is the coolest treatment plant that I've ever been in, and I've been in probably 3 or 4 dozen treatment plants in my career. Most of them are just big cinder block monstrosities, but that thing is a work of art. So you can, if you're interested, you can always sign up through the festival to go on that tour.
It is, I think, the most popular tour that we
Very,
offer
very popular.
every year. It's the sleeper hit of the festival. And speaking of the festival, I need to run, Kevin.
Yes.
And Missy's going to finish up here, but I just wanted to thank you for this time and also for the water truck. When I first came to New Haven, and I saw the green and saw there wasn't a water fountain, I was sad because that is one of the things that I think is so important to be able to offer people when they're out in public spaces, especially in the summer. And when I saw that water truck at an event, I was like, oh, this is just brilliant, because not only is it, you can go up and get a drink, but you can fill up your water bottle. You drive it to events all over the city, so it's not like just in some parks that you can get water. It's everywhere, and we're really excited to have it with us a couple of days. So thank you for that service to the festival and to the city as a whole.
No, it's our pleasure. And Shelley's referring to the RWA Water Wagon, which we do take to events throughout the region throughout the summer. Unfortunately, there are way more events than there are.
We need more water
wagons and staff to staff them. But we get around. Last year we did about 40 events with the water wagon. So, Shelley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Missy and I will continue this conversation because I have a lot more questions. I'm just sorry Shelley's going to miss my questions.
I'll watch you online.
There you go. So another broad category of events that I saw is like free on the green. Can you tell us a little bit about the free on the green events and what anybody who joins those events can expect?
Yeah, we like to think about the events, particularly the larger scale events on our. We have two different venues on the green. We have the main stage, bigger. It's literally a bigger space, and has more sound capability. And then we have a smaller festival center space that is a smaller deck, smaller PA, and is wonderful for more intimate events and doubles as also a hospitality center in the evenings for the concerts that are focused on the main stage, which is the one that's along Elm Street, which is going up right now. But we like to think of the green in all of its iterations and our iterations as New Haven's living room, the place where everybody can come and find a spot, whether you want to be very close to the speakers and just feel that beat coming at you, or you want to be further away and playing Frisbee with your kids. So it's such a lovely place that it's not gated. Anybody can come down. There's street parking and obviously lots of lots all around New Haven, so plenty of opportunities to come visit. In terms of the programming, there's so much. I'm never going to get through it all, but we both celebrate with community partners. So we open the festival on Friday night celebrating Juneteenth with programming on the main stage, which then continues into Saturday with a village where there will be vendors, there will be community organizations so that you can find out about services. There will also be performances by local schools and dance companies and musicians, which then rolls into, we're so excited this year to get to partner with the New Haven Symphony Orchestra and to introduce New Haven to the new maestro, Perry So. So that's just going to be an opening weekend of just so much fun. And one of the things I'm super excited about the concert with the symphony is that not only do we get to showcase the New Haven Symphony Orchestra, but they are showcasing New Haven. There's going to be a tabla player. There's going to be steel pan. There is going to be drummers. There is going to be musical theater singers. So it's going to be such an amazing celebration of both this beautiful music that comes from all over the world, but also the talents, the people that live right here.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of events, and I won't ask you to name more. But is there, I guess, besides the symphony, can you pinpoint one or two if somebody were approach you on the street and says, what's the one or two free on the green events that I absolutely have to see? What are you most excited about? Or, I know it's like asking you to pick which child is your favorite, but
yes, all of them are
all of them your favorite.
But I think, so we're really excited to welcome Stokely Williams, who was part of Mint Condition and is now performing on his own. So that's next Friday. That's going to be super exciting. Big show, and in addition to Stokely, there's some DJs, there's a comedian. So really, come on down, put out your blanket, partake of one of the food vendors, spend the evening with us. There's also a Puerto Rican band, El Laberinto del Coco, that I'm super looking forward to. It's this huge band that is both male and female artists, and that's somewhat unique. And so I'm really looking forward to that pairing of all the types of voices and dancers and players. And then closing out the weekend, we have an Afropop artist on Friday the 28th, Dobe Ganore, who is so amazing, like both an amazing musician, but also costumes and makeup, just really putting on a full presentation, a full representation of artistry of this artist. And then our final partnership is with the New Haven Caribbean Festival. And so it'll feature a bunch of different artists, but the headliner that evening is the Soca artist Lyrical. So
That's
lots
a
of
lot of, yeah. And you only touched probably on 5% of
Yep.
what's actually going to be out there. So the Arts and Ideas Festival, we've talked a little bit about it. I imagine, as I think about it, I'm more of an arts guy than an ideas guy, but is it difficult to kind of bring the ideas portion of the festival together? I mean, I imagine it's, maybe I'm wrong, but I imagine it's easier to say, okay, we're going to get this band, we're going to get that symphony, we're going to get this dance troupe. But the ideas portion to me seems like it's more nebulous, a little harder to pull together. Am I right about that, or is my brain just not functioning correctly?
No, it's different.
Yeah.
But I don't know that harder or easier is right. I mean, similar to arts programming, there are conferences and there are other events that we attend. And you think about even just between YouTube and TEDx and all of that, those kinds of forums, there's lots of people whose business and whose part of their personality and the way that they enter the world is through the humanities. And so one of the things that we're doing this year, and this is the second year that I may be lying, it may be the third year, that we have done these summit days where each day has a focus. We've got the first one on environmentalism. We've got one on sort of happiness and one on democracy. And so then you're just trying to find people whose work fits into this very, very broad category. So it's actually quite similar to the arts programming. It's just with a bent on humanities.
On humanities, yeah. And then, so when you contact these folks, is it an automatic yes, or do you have to kind of sell them on coming to New Haven a little bit?
Just like the artist, it's
Yeah.
a conversation. So
Yeah.
some are easier and some are harder, and certainly because we're in the Northeast and because there are so many universities in New Haven, there is a huge amount of intellectual power right
Yes.
here in New Haven.
Yes.
So there's a lot of folks that we can tap, whether as moderators or part of a panel, who are so facile with these topics that we can pair Dr. Ayanna Johnson with John Dankowski, who is very well known around here and who is an incredible interviewer. So it's really wonderful to be able to have both the folks from out of town and different points of view and folks from here, similar to the arts program.
Yeah, it's really incredible as I kind of went and looked into it a lot more. It's an amazing program that's right here in our backyard, right? You don't have to travel all over to see these 150 plus things.
Exactly.
This festival's bringing everybody here, and a lot of it's free.
Yes.
You really can't ask for more than that. Tell me a little bit. I noticed too, there's a lot of opportunities for families during the festival. Can you talk a little bit about that and
Sure.
family engagement opportunities?
And we like to think of all of the programming on the Green as being like great for families. Like I said, because the New Haven Green is so big, that you can come to a concert and enjoy one of the local food vendors and be playing frisbee with your kids. There's no worries about needing to sit silently and be very staid in your seat. It's very much a space of comfort. But there is some specific programming for families. For example, we have a circle show, and that's a particular type of street performance coming from. They perform in Quincy Market quite often, but they're from New Hampshire. The Red Trouser Show, and they are so fun and so strong. Their show is about their core strength, and that's about all I'll say. But they are super fun.
So are they going to be out there a bunch of times throughout the festival?
Yep, they'll be on the New Haven Green on the 22nd and the 23rd. So lots of shows over that weekend. We also, I bet you Shelley mentioned, but I'll reiterate if she didn't, or say it if she didn't, that we have these puppets coming to the festival each of Fridays and Saturdays. And these are giant puppets. They're probably 8 to 10 feet tall. And it's an artist who is actually here in Connecticut, in Hartford. And they cover different themes. There's themes of the elements. There's themes of a rainbow. There's themes of a jazz artist. And just these beautiful, wonderful puppets, that will be on walkabout around the green and really great for photo opportunities.
So, and I understand too, because it's kind of like the water treatment tour. It's a limited capacity. Are there a lot of events where you actually have to pre-register or get tickets in order to attend?
Yes, and we have, so about 80% of the festival's programming is free to the public. But even within that, and the Water Authority, the treatment plant is a really great example of that, where it's free, but you do have to register ahead of time to go. And we also encourage people, if on the day of and you've got the time and you see it sold out, walk up, because some people may not be able to go that particular day. So I do encourage people to walk up if you happen to have that time to spare. And there are some ticketed shows. I think we may have run through the list of them, but opening this weekend is the King Lear at the University Theater. We also have the Big Circus show, Dual Reality by Seven Fingers Company out of Montreal. And then the third show in the University Theater, Shelley mentioned, the Contratiempos show, Azucar. And then the big ticket item, I think it's going to be a real joy, is the concert with Samara Joy at the College Street Music Hall.
That's awesome. So I'm sitting here. This is an amazing festival you put on over 2 weeks. As you said, 160 plus paid employees plus volunteers. And only about 20% of it is, I guess, what you'd say is ticketed. So how do you pay for it all?
That is a great question.
Yeah, who's paying for all of this, for all of this greatness that the folks in New Haven and surrounding areas can take advantage of?
Yep. So like many not-for-profits, we have a portfolio of donors that includes government funding, and we are very, very lucky to have strong funding from the state of Connecticut. And we are also have been able to receive grants from the National Endowment for the Arts, both some, I won't call it annual funding because you do have to apply for it every year, but we have been successful in a number of years with both that and our Big Read programming. And then there's lots of these same types of things you would expect, foundations that are focused on the arts, and very strong individual giving. There's a lot of people here in New Haven who just think that the festival is pretty great and want to support it with their dollars.
That's fantastic. So another thing I saw on the website, and Shelley mentioned it briefly, but I wanted to follow up on it, is the high school fellowship program. Can you talk a little bit about that and what it is?
The fellowship program is just a fantastic opportunity for high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It's a program that begins each January, although recruitment starts in October. But the program is a weekly seminar, and we are in partnership with Gateway Community College. So the students actually get college credit for participating in this class. And we use the festival itself as sort of the practicum. So they get to learn about arts administration. They get to learn about arts making. They get to participate in arts making. And this year, the fellows are collaborating with another partnership that we have with the Yale China Association, and they are working together on a project that is just about to be announced on our website, but it is going to be with a fellow from the Yale China Association, who happens to be a single fellow who has created a cohort of colleagues around her to create an immersive design experience. and our fellowship students have been collaborating. They have been collaborating kind of all along the process, which is kind of great that both fellowships are about 6 months long. Now they will be as part of the production crew and as part of the house management, the welcoming staff of this show. But they're also going to be appearing in collaboration with Next Haven over the middle weekend of the festival. So June 22nd, I believe I have that date right, but I might be lying too. They will be participating in a sort of artistic panel discussion over at Next Haven. And so lots of opportunities for them to both learn and then demonstrate what they have learned over the course of this 6-month fellowship program.
Is it open to New Haven students only, or is it regional?
Primarily New Haven students, but every year we sort of examine that. And sometimes it's students in New Haven schools who may not be from here.
Oh, okay. And you said October is when the application process starts?
Yes.
And how many students do you end up
This
taking?
year, I believe we have 21.
Wow.
So it's often been in the neighborhood of 15, but this year we've increased the number, and hopefully that'll be continue to be the case. It's really great.
And you may have said it, juniors and seniors,
Sophomores, juniors,
sophomores,
and seniors. And what's
Great.
really been gratifying over the years is to see students be fellows, then maybe they'll be volunteers, and then maybe they'll be on staff. And that's happened a few times, and that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I love that. So if I'm at home right now or at work listening to this and I want to see more, where can I learn more?
Absolutely. Our website is up and running, www.artidea.org. Lots of different things. There is a calendar that you can take a look at. You can also search by genre and a bunch of different ways. So however you sort of like to access your information, there's probably a way for you to find it.
And I know we've mentioned a lot of programs, a lot of the arts and ideas that are coming up. Is there are there any that we haven't mentioned yet, or that you haven't mentioned yet that you want folks to be aware of?
So I don't think we've had a chance to mention our food programs.
Oh, let's talk about food.
Yeah, I mean, because who
Love
doesn't
food,
like to eat?
that's
And
right.
then maybe you want some water.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to the water wagon.
Exactly. And those are often ticketed events, and they are also popular. So it's possible that some of them are sold out. But we are able to make such great tribute to the wealth of restaurants here in New Haven. And some of the food programs are tours. There's a tour of Grand Avenue, the Grand Avenue Gastronomy Tour, that is such a fun exploration of what a vibrant street and business sector that Grand Avenue is. And it's such a great introduction to those little restaurants that have been run by a lot of them just families over the years, and what a great introduction to those businesses, to some of the tried and true restaurants, and even some new spots. So every year it's a little bit different in terms of what restaurants are represented, but it's a really great opportunity. And one part of the food program that's coinciding with the Ideas program is the Indigenous chef Sherry Pocknett is giving a food demonstration lecture actually over at Gateway Community College in Cafe Vincenzo. And it is just going to be an amazing evening of learning and eating.
Yeah. So if I had tickets to that gastronomy thing, so is that just going into the different restaurants and sampling some of the dishes in each one? What, as somebody, if I did have tickets, what can I expect from that?
Yeah, so it's a walk through Grand Avenue, and it's led by Lee Cruz, who is a well-known advocate of Fairhaven, excuse me. And so he will introduce the folks on the tour to the restaurateurs, talk a little bit about the food culture and traditions that those restaurants are coming from, and the work that they're trying to do, and then of course a little sampling.
And aside from the food programming, there are food trucks throughout the area. If
we will have
on the
food
green
trucks
or-
on the green.
Yep.
Hopefully Tuesdays through Sundays, but definitely for the main stage programming Thursdays through Sundays.
That's great. Well, listen, I'm excited. It's going
Me
to
too.
start this week, and I really appreciate you and Shelley coming on. I wish she could have stayed, but she did have another commitment. So what's the website again, if people have questions?
www.artidea.org.
There you go. So if you're listening and you're thinking about going, go to the website, look at the programming, pick a few things. It can be overwhelming as somebody who spent some time on the website. And that's a good thing, right? Because you guys spent a lot of time putting this together, and there's something for everyone. I'm confident in saying there's if food isn't your thing, there's something else. If food is your thing,
And our
there it
box
is.
office is great. You can always give us a call, and somebody will help talk you through the schedule or what you might like. So there's
Yeah.
advice out there.
Yeah, it's something else, and I want to, as we're wrapping up, I want to. I hope people have an appreciation for what this festival is bringing to their backyard. It really is. You're almost taking the world and condensing it into New Haven for 2 weeks, and you're bringing all of these incredible experiences right to people's backyard, and most of it's free.
Well, that's the goal every year, a different little taste, and thank you so much. We appreciate that. That is what we're trying to do, and hopefully everybody will find something that they just fall in love with.
I hope so too. I've lived in a lot of places, and I've never seen anything like this. So it's unique and it's awesome. So with that, our show is coming to an end today. I'll just say one more time: June 14th, the festival begins. So if you have nothing to do for the next couple of weeks, or even if you do have something to do, cancel it and go to a couple of the events. You are listening to the Liquid Lunch with the RWA, and today we learned all about the International Festival of Arts and Ideas, which is slated to begin on June 14th. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch us streaming on YouTube and wherever you get your social media. Missy, thank you for joining us, and thanks Shelley when you get back to the office for joining us.
Thank you.
As we close our show, for Liquid Lunch, raise your glass of water and a toast and cheers to staying informed, hydrated, and please enjoy your week and enjoy the Arts and Ideas Festival.